Hey, lovely viewers, and welcome to Get Well, Stay Well on Revelation TV. Thank you so much indeed for joining us today. You're joined by me, Si, and of course, the mother to us all, our lovely Felicity. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Si. It's good to be back with you again in the studio for a little peace and quiet, because the summer was very, very hectic, as you know.
Yeah.
I went back to Jersey to lead some courses and do some seminars. And my son had this horrendous accident.
Wow.
Wow, on the 9th of July, yes. And he was just coming off a boat that he'd been out on with some friends. And someone said, oh, hop on this jet ski because I'll nip you back into St. Helier. And they were just going very slowly because it was, you know, they were just going across the bay, about 700 meters out to sea, when a speedboat that had been recklessly driving by the swimmers, the police were already after them, and they came straight out and they went straight into the jet ski.
Wow.
And the two boys were thrown into the air. Giles' knee was actually hanging off. I can't tell you how awful it was. So I had a phone call from the ambulance saying, please come immediately to the emergency and in Jersey. And, you know, his mum, I can see the end of the bones in my femur. So I arrived there, and I used to be on the chaplaincy, the hospital chaplaincy team.
Okay.
So I saw my son lying there, you know, and above him there was a notice board saying amputation of lower limb. So I just said, in Jesus' name, there is going to be no amputation. He's going to make a complete recovery. Amen.
Yeah.
And so the doctors and nurses who were around him were sort of looking, and I said, amen. And Giles said, amen. He said, Mum, I can still actually wiggle my toes, so I don't want to have this leg taken off. And anyway, we had a terrific battle, and he was flown to Southampton that night, to the big trauma unit in Southampton Hospital, which was really good. So he was flown that night in a little ambulance plane, and I couldn't go on that. It was just the doctor, the nurse, and Giles. It was a little tiny plane. And I was in touch with him on the mobile all the time, of course. And the next morning, we all flew into Southampton to support him. So 32 days later, we got home again. It was quite an experience. So he was in the Southampton trauma unit for a time, had lots of transfusions, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And then he was transferred to a hospital in Salisbury, where they actually have the Marines and the guys who've been blown up in places like Afghanistan and Iraq with bad leg wounds. So he was actually in that unit with a brilliant surgeon and a brilliant plastics man and orthopedics man.
Amazing.
So, you know, a lot of prayer. And I did say to the surgeon, you know, there are thousands of people literally praying. So I really want to thank all the viewers so much for praying for Giles, because the support has been terrific.
Yeah.
And it does make a huge difference, wonderful difference.
What was the initial reaction from you when you received that phone call? That must be a mother's worst nightmare, surely.
Yeah, it was, especially after losing Melanie to cancer in 1989. And I just thought, you know, do I really have to go through this again? I mean, I was just so relieved that he survived, because he could have drowned. He'd lost 4 pints of blood in the sea.
Yeah.
And part of his knee as well, which has gone to the bottom of Portlet Bay in Jersey. So there are bits there that really ought to be put back into his knee.
But I guess that's where faith comes into it, isn't it? And in the relationship that you had with Christ. And it seems to me that he gave you some sort of peace despite all the tragedy and devastation that happened at that moment you received that phone call. You seemed very peaceful.
Well, absolutely. It was, you know, God does lift you out for these moments. He lifts you up and takes you out of the absolute panic, and you know. But I think there's post-traumatic stress disorder as well. You know, if you have something like that happen, obviously there's flashbacks, and you know, this is why I'm doing some programs now on post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm doing programs on blood donation and all the things that I really learnt about firsthand.
Yes.
Because it's a long time since I was actually working in hospitals. So this time we were on the receiving end, which is not nearly as much fun.
Yeah. And how is Giles now?
Well, he's doing very well. I mean, there is a court case. This man is going to be brought to book about it, because he did leave them. He actually abandoned them, having hit them. He just careered off.
He was already being chased by the police, is that right?
Apparently, yes. The police had already been called because he'd been really racing up and down by swimmers right in the bay, in St. Brelard's
Right.
Bay. If people know Jersey, they'll know the geography. And Giles was actually out at Portlet, which is the next bay and further out. So he was deep at sea, and he would have died. They reckon another 4 minutes in the water he'd have been dead, because he'd lost so much blood. So this is why we thank God for the blood donors.
Yes.
And the wonderful people who prayed for Giles and are still doing so, because he's got a lot of physio to do. He can just get the foot to the ground now, but he can't put much weight on it yet.
How important was it that there was a blood donor there available for Giles?
Absolutely saved his life. No doubt about it. No doubt, Si. I mean, unless we have wonderful people who do donate blood, you know, there's people with leukemia, there's people with anemia, and anyone who has an accident, sometimes even having a baby, you lose a lot of blood. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's really wonderful and such a lovely thing to do.
Okay, well that takes us on to our first item of today. I'm going to show you this video talking about the importance for the public to donate blood. Let's have a look at this.
I was given a 0% chance to survive. The doctor said if I live for a day, I'd die in 3 days. If I live for 3 days, I'd die in 3 weeks of infection.
5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I, had infections and hospital stays, and sometimes my red counts were down, and sometimes my platelets were down.
There was nothing to stop the bleeding in her brain. Are you saying that she might not live? Are you saying that this is fatal? And they told me it can be.
Donating blood is important because you're helping save someone's life. You're helping save 3 people's lives with every time you donate. And I think the inconvenience is worth the outcome, because, I mean, it's just 1 hour out of your day. And just to see that and see that people are actually benefiting from what you're doing is just a great thing.
I went through 43 surgeries, again 134 blood transfusions, and without the participation of blood donors, my life certainly would not have been spared.
Luckily, I got past all of it, and now I'm 7 months pregnant, and, this wouldn't have happened had I not gotten those blood products when I did.
I wanted to give her my blood and my platelets, and I couldn't. But someone out there had healthy platelets for her, and that's why she's here.
What a really beautiful video, and it just gives us a perspective of how we can help to save someone else's life by donating blood.
And these things happen so quickly, in a second. 1 minute he's absolutely fine and coming in to meet me. I was going to be actually giving a golf prize at the golf club, and he was coming to film it. And so, I was all ready to go to the prize giving, which was the championship for Jersey for the ladies. And suddenly, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm at my son's bedside, praying my heart out, So it really is wonderful that people donated, and I'm just thankful to all those people.
So if people are watching us today and they're saying, I've never really, I don't know too much about donating blood, where do they start? How do they donate?
Well, the funny thing is that everyone can give blood to any age from 17 onwards.
Okay.
Because I thought, maybe it was just young, healthy people. Even if you have tattoos, you can give blood.
Yeah.
And of course, the O group is the most usual, the O positive group. That's about 38% of people are O positive. Then
And how do we find out
A
what
positive?
we are?
Well, they test you to make sure, and actually everybody should know. It should be on our passports, I think, as well.
Okay.
So there's O positive, O negative, which is much rarer. The A positive, I'm actually A positive, I know now from having to have blood transfusions myself in the past. A negative, which is much rarer, and then there's AB positive, AB negative, all kinds of ways. But the thing is, if people have O, then they can donate, and we can all donate whatever our blood group is. And of course, the rarer ones, it's even more important that people do give, because one day they'll be on the receiving end, and when you give, it's all about giving, isn't it, Si?
Yeah.
When we give, then wonderful things come back to us.
And tell us a little bit about the procedure of donating blood.
Well, it's good fun because you go into the hospital, there's pretty nurses, there's handsome doctors, and you don't feel a thing. It's all good fun. And, you feel that you're doing something good. You get a blessing from doing it, really. And you don't feel tired when you come out. People think, would I be well enough to do it? Yes, you would. And, of course, your body then is stimulated to make fresh blood very quickly.
And how do we find out about the nearest place to where we live, where we can donate?
The hospital is a good idea, the local hospital, and they're always wanting people to donate. And especially, of course, if there's a crisis of some kind or a major accident. We think about these bombs going off in big cities, and suddenly they need an awful lot of blood quickly. So people can go in and donate.
Explain to us the procedure. If Si was to go in and donate his blood today, would that be stored away and that can stay in a certain amount of time in storage, or
yes, it can.
How does the whole procedure work?
Yes, well, they would obviously test you first,
Yeah.
make sure what group you're going to be, and then make an appointment, and then you'd start going in with other people. You all lay there. It's like a bit of a party, really, and everyone is laying there, or sitting there and giving blood, and you chat with other people. It's quite a social thing to do. So yes, the blood is stored for a time, and then eventually, if it's not used, that's it. But it's wonderful to have a big blood bank, basically.
Because I only asked that really because of, imagine there's a big incident, an attack or some sort, and many injuries, and many people need blood transfusion, blood needs to be donated, so they must have quite a big bank of blood there available for all these people.
Yes. As they said in the clip, there's an enormous amount of blood that is transfused every day.
Yeah.
I've had transfusions several times after having babies, after having various operations.
Yeah.
When I was ill with cancer, I had the big biliary bypass operation 7 years after I had the pancreatic cancer, and I had to have blood then as well. So yes, very, very grateful.
Is there a way that the quality of our blood is affected in any way by the foods that we're eating, our diets, for example?
Oh yes, I mean, how wonderful it is when we have healthy blood. As it says in the Bible, the life is in the blood. And that's, of course, why Jesus went to the cross and shed his blood for us, because the blood is the lifeblood, and the lifeblood cleanses. It's interesting, any good hematologist will tell you that the blood nourishes and cleanses. It has, it's a most wonderful miracle the way the blood works in the body. And of course, every 3 minutes it passes right through the body. So, for instance, in the wrist, where you can see the arteries and the veins here, every 3 minutes, your whole 8 pints is moving through that wrist.
Wow.
Which is why actually we do with the silver pulsar, which people know about.
Yes.
We actually put the silver pulsar on here, and it'll kill all the pathogens in the blood within, if you have it on for say 2 hours. I was doing it with someone the other day, and you take away the pathogens in the blood.
What about the blood circulation? We constantly hear about the importance, obviously, of exercise, that we're staying active as well. Now, we obviously live very busy lifestyles and we're constantly at work. We're sitting down all day. We don't get the blood circulation as often maybe as we would like. What do we do in those circumstances?
Well, it's really important to get out and to drink enough water as well, because if you think you've got 8 pints of blood being used all
Yes.
the time. So if we get dehydrated, that blood's going to become more viscous.
Right.
So really important what we're eating and drinking as well.
So what are the key elements there for us to keep a healthy blood? So drinking lots of water.
Yes.
What sort of foods help our blood?
Well, the green leafy vegetables that I'm always banging on about,
Yeah.
you know, because that really makes healthy blood. It builds the hemoglobin. Beetroot, of course, is wonderful. I had a beetroot juice this morning.
Yeah.
You can also make a hot beetroot soup.
Yeah.
So in the winter, that's a really nice warming thing to have, and builds the blood. So if we can keep our blood healthy and clean, you know, doing the colonics, doing the juices, doing the green, leafy, living fruits and vegetables, then we are going to be healthy. We're going to have healthy blood, and all the better to, you know, to share that with somebody if they're ill.
And the importance of obviously teaching this to our children from a young age, because it's so important, isn't it, to teach our children to stay healthy, because that will help them for the rest of their lives, really, won't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's vital, and you know, I think it's lovely that the grandchildren came in. They saw what happened to Giles.
Wow.
And you know, I was very impressed. Little Melora, the little granddaughter.
How old is
said-
she?
She's 7. And she said, she stood up and she said, I have something to say. She said, my aunt died before I was born.
Wow.
If my uncle had died, I wouldn't have been a niece anymore.
Oh, wow.
So she'd worked it all out, bless her heart, and she said, I'm very angry with that man who drove into Uncle
Yeah.
Giley.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a bad scene.
Yeah. But
So
sometimes,
especially
yeah.
especially leaving them in the water. And luckily, there was another boat watching, actually saw what happened. So
I mean,
they
how
came
do you
over.
how do you prevent something like that? What are you going to say? I'm not going to enjoy my life and I'll stay at home, and you know, you just don't know, do you?
You don't know.
can come
And I
out of
mean,
the house
Giles has been, you know, he's grown up in Jersey. He's been on the sea. He's had little boats when he was young. He's
Yeah.
got a bigger boat now. He's a big boy. They all go out on boats. They,
Yes.
You know, they windsurf. They do everything.
But you're
because
saying this man on the speedboat, he was going near the swimmers in the sea, and this is what
He was, yes, he
during
was.
the summer. That's what people like to do. They go to the beach. They go out swimming in the sea. You can't prevent anything like that happening, can you?
The nurse in the ambulance said to me, you know, we've just been waiting for something like this to happen because
Wow.
they are driving recklessly and there's not enough laws to stop people driving where these swimmers are. So a lot of lessons have been learned, and of course Giles is a lawyer in Jersey.
Yeah.
So you know, he's there is going to be a court case about it. The police are bringing the charges.
Right.
And the man didn't want to know. He didn't want to stop.
Wow.
And in fact, he said to the police, "I haven't got time for this." And
Oh
the
my
police said, "Oh, you will have. Oh, you will have."
Wow.
So yeah, he left them to drown. Basically, I suppose he didn't realise Giles' leg was
Yeah.
half cut off.
Yeah.
But they've done an amazing job and got it right. But he will have to have a knee replacement. But
Yeah.
that'll be a year down the track because his bones have to be strong enough. I mean, his patella was smashed into 5 pieces, the tibia in 15 pieces. I mean, this is why they were going to amputate. And the end of the femur has been knocked off one side. There's 2 bones on the end, like a condyle. It's called a condyle.
Yeah.
So one of them is missing. Now, as the surgeon said to me, usually in a car accident or a motorbike accident, you can find the bits and pieces. But of course, if it's in the sea,
Wow.
you can't find them. The other thing that I didn't appreciate was that when you have an accident in the sea, it's much more dangerous from the point of infection.
Of course.
And you see, I'd have thought, well, you know, salt water
Yeah,
is
yeah.
clean. But in fact,
You think
with
how
all the boats
contaminated, yeah.
and the oil and all the detritus from the boats, it's very, very worrying about infection. So that's what they were afraid, that he would have an infection.
Yeah.
Because he had 3 huge flesh wounds as well.
I want to take things back. And we mentioned about faith earlier on in the programme, and the importance of having that faith and having that relationship with Christ. And in a way, we have our relationship with Christ because he protects us from what's going on today, but also from what can happen tomorrow. And having Christ in your life at that moment obviously helped you enormously. What advice would you give today to any of the viewers who are watching us and they might have family members who are going through certain health problems, circumstances in their life, the importance of having that strong relationship with Christ?
Well, I think so, and cover them in prayer. All you can do for your family is cover them in prayer. And, you know, the Lord says that you and your household will be saved. So I do think that there was divine intervention in the fact that somebody was watching and got him on board quickly, got him out of the water. And, you know, the ambulance was there quite quickly, managed to get him to the hospital. And then we had the surgeons, we had everybody there. And they managed to get him on the little flight to Southampton that night as well. And God opened the door for, you know, him to be saved and for his leg to be saved. Thank God.
Amen. So. Amen. Just moving on now, Felicity, talk about the sunlight, talking about the summertime.
Yes.
The sunlight. People like to go sunbathing and be in the sun. Is there a danger for that?
Well, I thought we'd have something cheerful after this rather traumatic start. Yes, I think I wanted to get Giles in the sunshine as soon as I could to get him well again. But of course, he was in hospital for 32 nights.
Yes.
With no fresh air, basically, certainly no sunshine.
Yeah.
No juices.
Yeah.
It was tough, but yes, it's so important for us to get in the sunshine to make the vitamin D, and the sun does not cause skin cancer, as you'll hear in this clip.
Excellent.
It's the toxicity in the body.
Interesting. So let's have a look at this. The healing power of sunlight.
Sunlight. The source of all life on planet Earth. Without it, we would not even exist. We are creatures of light. Our bodies and eyes are solar panels. The sun is so important, I dedicated a whole chapter to it in my book, Heal Yourself 101. It is one of the fundamental basics of life and radiant health. Sunlight does not cause cancer. People who get skin cancer are unhealthy. It's that simple. People in third world countries don't wear sunscreen, yet they almost never get skin cancer. Sure, many of them have dark skin, which protects you from the sun, but what happens when you go in the sun? You tan, your skin gets darker. This is your body's way of protecting you from the sun. Yet in America, dark-skinned people are starting to get skin cancer and related melanomas. Why? Diet and lifestyle. Don't believe anyone who tells you sunlight causes melanoma. In fact, the opposite. Researchers in Sweden followed 30,000 women over 20 years and found women who avoid sunbathing during the summer are twice as likely to die as those who sunbathe every day with high exposure to sunlight. In studies all over the world, as sun exposure increases, malignant skin cancer goes down. The reason some people get melanoma after going in the sun is because they are toxic. They eat wrong, smoke, drink, and fill their bodies with all kinds of chemical crap. Their livers are clogged and their kidneys are so toxic that the blood has to push the toxins out to the skin, where it gets baked by the sun into the skin cells, causing melanoma. Wrinkles increase when people eat sugar and lots of sweet food, which cross-links the proteins in your skin, thus weakening it. Don't blame the sun, it just intensifies your condition. So get healthy now, there are no shortcuts. Kara and I do not use sunscreen. Many third world cultures who live in the sun all day don't use sunscreen or sun lotion. Sunscreen is one of the most toxic things you can put on your skin and is actually the cause of many skin cancers. Look at the label. You are literally baking those chemicals right into your skin cells, which open up. Sunscreen blocks the body's ability to produce vitamin D3 from the sun's UVB rays, which is by far the best form of vitamin D. Forget those worthless vitamin D pills. You need sunlight to get the real thing. In the USA, vitamin D deficiency is at epidemic levels. This deficiency can lead to aggressive forms of skin cancer. Vitamin D protects the body from diseases like multiple sclerosis, bone disease, tuberculosis, type 1 diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. Vitamin D is created when sunlight hits your skin, which helps remineralize your bones and teeth. It oxygenates your skin, it lowers blood pressure, it helps wounds and broken bones heal faster, it improves poor eyesight. The sun's rays contain infrared energy to detox the body and UV rays to cleanse and sterilize our skin of bacteria and fungus. God doesn't make mistakes. We are designed to be in the sun. People who don't get enough sunlight start having all kinds of physical, mental, and emotional problems. Bones go soft and depression sets in. The highest suicide rates are in places with the least sunlight. On the other hand, people who get lots of sun have more energy, they feel better, they get sick less, they have denser, stronger bones and teeth, immune systems, richer blood, and healthier nerves. Sun normalizes hormone levels and raises sex drive. It even increases the amount of iron in your blood and gives you a tan look. Low on iron? Go in the sun. Sunshine may reduce breast cancer by up to 40% and ovarian cancer by 80%. USA cancer rates are highest in states with the least sunshine. So how do you protect yourself from overexposure? The same way plants do, from the inside out. Have you ever wondered why delicate thin leaves don't wither in the sun even at 110 degrees? It's their green blood, chlorophyll. If you juice, blend, or eat green leafy plants, you get the same magic protection that protects their delicate leaves.
Healing power of sunlight. Very, very interesting there, Felicity. And sometimes we've been warned to stay out of the sun and protect ourselves. But on the other hand, we also know vitamin D is from the sunlight as well. So it's healthy.
Absolutely. And did you see the green juice there? And he's saying
Sure
that's
did.
what protects the plants. So we need to get this green stuff into our body. And I'm so glad to be teaching what I'm teaching, because I know it's true. It's, you know, proven again and again. So yeah, vitamin D is great and people supplement with it, but there's nothing like getting the real sunshine on the body.
Yeah.
As he says, you know, it heals bones, broken bones, it oxygenates the skin, purifies.
But Felicity, it's great for us to show something like this, and some of our viewers right now may be looking outside their window and it could be raining and thinking, I can't afford to go on holiday and I can't afford to get sunlight. What is the alternative? You mentioned there about the food, the eating, the juices.
Well, yes, you can have your vitamin D levels tested, and it's the Birmingham City Hospital who actually specialise in that for the whole of Britain, I think. So you can send off for a little test that you do at home, and you prick the finger and you send the blood off, and they will tell you where you are on your vitamin levels. Most of us are short of vitamin D, and that basically, you know, the deficiency is the cause of these illnesses in our bodies. So vitamin D is very important, and some people have seasonal affective disorder. You know, they get very depressed when the sun's not out, so they always take their holiday in the winter instead of taking a summer holiday, which is entirely sensible and good to do. So we do need to get out there in the sun and not to put that awful suntan cream on. I don't ever use that stuff. I mean, you're meant to sunbathe in the morning until maybe 11, and then you come out of it over the real heat of the day, and then you can go back in again in the afternoon. But just to get a nice tan and not to burn.
Wonderful. Felicity, thank you so much. We've just come to the end of today's programme. As always, thank you for all the information that you provide us. Okay, thank you so much, viewers, for joining us today. I want to say thank you, and if today's programme has been interesting for you, then do remember we have a catch-up service on our website. Simply log on to www.revelationtv.com and see all the information there, watch your catch-up programmes, and also forward it on to your friend. I also want to remind you, you've got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/RTV Europe. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Take care and God bless. Bye.